Papa?
Papa, I am your father. Hello, and welcome to Winnow, a couple's close reading of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'm Owen Gemmer.
I'm Isabella Gemmer. We are married, and we love to talk about books together.
In this podcast, we are working our way book by book through the entirety of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. This particular episode will cover the Odyssey, book 16.
All right. Are you ready to give the summary this episode?
I am ready to give my 67-second summary. Nah.
3, 2, 1.
Telemachus arrives at Eumaeus' hut, and the dogs this time do not bark, but they are very friendly. And Ulysses is like, hey, somebody's here. Let's go talk to them. And he realizes it is his son. But then he gets to watch Eumaeus and Telemachus have a very friendly greeting. It's very clear that they like one another quite a lot. Eumaeus is like, hey, here's this stranger. We're taking care of him. And Telemachus is like, great. We should let my mom know that I'm back, but I don't want to go back because the suitors are trying to kill me. So, hey, Eumaeus, can you go to the palace and tell my mom that I'm back, but keep it on the down low? As soon as Eumaeus leaves, Odysseus is like, yo, it's me. And Athena undoes his disguise, and they have this grand reunion. Then they begin to plot. So they're making the plan. They're going to go to the palace together, but Odysseus is going to be in disguise. They're going to kind of trigger the suitors, and then they're going to kill them all. And they make the plans. The suitors are back, but they're mad that Telemachus escaped, and so they're also kind of mad and plotting to kill Telemachus. So there we go.
Indeed. This is the nice big reunion episode. Okay, so my opening question has to do with the reunion.
Yes.
Basically, I would like to discuss why Odysseus eventually reveals himself as I am your father to Telemachus, but it takes him a bit to get there. Mm-hmm. And I think there are multiple reasons potentially why he waits for the specific moment. But yes, I'd like to discuss why does he wait to reveal, and like why does he reveal at the moment that he does?
Yeah. There obviously are, I think, a lot of possibilities. The first one that just comes to mind, and obviously we'll spitball from here, is that he wanted to wait for Eumaeus to be gone because he wants us to be slow and to be really in control of who knows what information. Mm-hmm. And so he wants to be alone with Telemachus. If he had done it sort of right at the beginning, he's told this whole grand lie to Eumaeus about who he is, this whole backstory coming from Crete, and he doesn't want to ruin that. He still seems to have plans for Eumaeus being sort of loyal but not fully in the know. And so, yeah, it seems like there's a practical component of we just need to wait for Telemachus to be alone.
Yes. Yeah, Odysseus does say in his grand reveal, before Eumaeus returns, he doesn't want anybody else.
Yeah, even when they're going through the rest of the plan, when we get to the castle, he's like even very clear, like, don't tell my dad, don't tell your mom, don't tell the nurses, don't tell anybody else that it's me. Yeah. He's like swearing Telemachus to secrecy. Like, you are the only one who knows currently. You are the only one who will remain in the know for quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is quite a lot of trust for Odysseus to put into Telemachus, given that he kind of doesn't really know who Telemachus has become.
Yes. I mean, that does lead me to
I guess
what would be like point number 2 on this list.
Yeah.
Which is that it seems to me like he was making sure that Telemachus like has grown into the type of guy that Odysseus can work with and can trust. And I guess like we could look at the interactions and just to see like what specifics he's learning about Telemachus's character.
Yeah. I mean, because I think it starts like even in the first 10 lines when Telemachus or some stranger approaches from a distance and the dogs are not barking, but they're sort of like, nipping at his toes and fawning over this new visitor. Because when Odysseus first approached the hut, the dogs were guard dogs, and Eumaeus had to call them off. So that initially is already assigned to Odysseus, that this person approaching is well liked and is trustworthy to the dogs, at least.
Like point one for Telemachus. Like one positive number one is that the dogs didn't even bark when he approached. Like when the dogs like something or when the dogs are comfortable with something, that's like an easy like shoe in.
Yeah. Especially guard dogs. Like these aren't kind of domesticated dogs that are like puppies everybody plays with all the time. Like they're guard dogs who know their owners and a few people, and then they guard everybody else.
Yes.
And I wonder too, this is again just kind of speculating, I wonder if Odysseus feels even a little bit jealous that like when he approached, he's been gone for 20 years. The dogs don't know him. They're probably new dogs who weren't even alive when Odysseus left. And so he's unrecognizable to the dogs. And yet Telemachus, right, this is a sign that Telemachus has been here often. This person visits frequently because the dogs know his scent. And
Telemachus, it seems like, and then from the following interactions between Eumaeus and Telemachus, that Telemachus probably hangs out here often with Eumaeus, which seems to be another very positive attribute.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to get into the exchanges that Telemachus and Eumaeus have? That Odysseus is, I think, very intentionally sort of sitting back and watching, which, again, to your point, I think is this like, I don't think it's a test necessarily, but it is Odysseus trying to sort of scope out like what kind of person has Telemachus become.
I mean, I like to imagine like an alternate universe scenario. What if Telemachus had shown up and he had started saying like, like the suitors are cool, like they're not a huge issue. You know, like he could have been very like, maybe not like speaking highly of the suitors, but he could have been very sort of nonchalant about the situation.
Right.
He could have been sort of like, you know what, it's not an issue. I don't have to solve these problems. They'll get solved on their own.
Yeah. Or the alternative as well of like the despair of like, well, neither Nestor nor Menelaus knows anything. My dad's dead and I'm kind of giving up a little bit. Like he also could have potentially had that reaction that Odysseus probably wouldn't have been impressed by.
Yeah. If he had been very, again, like laid back.
Or panicked. I think there could be a potential where like Telemachus is like, they're out to kill me and I have no evidence, even like I still have no evidence that my dad's alive, and you know, even his best friends from the war don't know anything about him, and so like he's probably dead, and like, oh, they're gonna kill me. Like I also could see that reaction from Telemachus, and he doesn't have that.
That's a good point. He's not like, even though we discussed at the end of last episode, he seems like very ready for action, but he's not panicked. Yeah, that's a good thing I hadn't thought of. Yeah. But just to say that like in that alternate universe, Odysseus could have very much just been like, you know what? I don't need to reveal my secret identity to this guy.
Right.
You know? But there is when Eumaeus and Telemachus reunite, they have a hug. It is a nice little Homeric simile, and I shall read. Just as a father, when he sees his own dear son, his only son, his dear most precious boy, returned from foreign lands after 10 years of grieving for his loss. My
boy. Yeah. That's my boy.
Yeah. Welcomes him. So the swineherd wrapped his arms around godlike Telemachus and kissed him as if he were returning from the dead. And then they speak to each other. So it's so interesting that just a few pages more in this book, we get the actual father and son reunion, but Eumaeus and Telemachus get a Homeric simile that's like saying, this is as good as a father-son reunion.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just a normal father-son reunion. It's super intense within the simile. Like as if it's very almost like prodigal son in the Bible. Like my son was dead and now he is alive again kind of passion and excitement and love and these kinds of things. Like, it's super intense, this relationship that Eumaeus and Telemachus have in a way that's really beautiful, I think. But
I wonder how long in actual time Telemachus has been on this little like mini journey, because it feels like in my head I'm thinking a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But travel took so much longer back then. And so I would maybe extend that to like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, it's super.
It's really not specific in the text how long these things are taking. But just to, like the reaction to like, it does say in the simile after 10 years, it's almost like he's been gone for 10 years.
Which is how long Odysseus has been on the seas. Odysseus has been gone for 20 years, but I don't know. I feel like the 10 years is pretty significant because most of the Greeks who fought in Troy did return after about 10 years. So most of them had this kind of reunion with their fathers, right? Like, yeah, right. So after the simile, where Homer gives us this father-son dynamic from a narrative perspective, we also see that dynamic play out even more within how Telemachus and Eumaeus speak to one another.
So that brings us to our little segment we like to call Greek time.
It's Greek time, baby.
Because basically, in the next exchange of speech that Telemachus and Eumaeus have, Eumaeus refers to Telemachus as, the Wilson translation says, my dear child, and Telemachus refers to Eumaeus as grandpa.
Yes.
So we wanted to dig a little bit more into these terms because even in English, you can say things like my child, even when the young person you're speaking to isn't biologically your child. But so it can have that double meaning. It can be like a biological relationship, or it can be just like an emotional relationship.
Right. And many different cultures use familial terms differently, right? Like some cultures are much more loose with like who's your cousin. Cousin can just be kind of anybody in your generation that you're close with. So same with like uncle or auntie. Many cultures might have that term be sort of any adult, familiar person or something like that. Yeah. So terms for family are very sort of culture specific. And so we're not going to be able to really pinpoint exactly, but we can sort of look at the connotations of these words and dictionary definitions for people who have done more research than we have. So yeah, the first phrase that Eumaeus uses for Telemachus, Wilson does it as my dear child. The first phrase that Eumaeus uses to refer to Telemachus in line 25 is philon tekos. So two parts of this. Philon, I think we've talked about before, is related to the word for love. It's like beloved or dear or something like that. And then tekos is related to teknon, which is one of the words for child. So Greek, broadly speaking, there's two different words for children. Teknon, which is this one, and then like paideia, which is the root word of, like pedagogy or pediatrics. But that one, the pied root, is more just an age, any child, like that's just denoting like young people. But the teknon one is more the sort of genealogical term for like offspring. And so it is interesting here that there are these different words, and yet Eumaeus is using the one that is kind of usually more offspring, family related, not just sort of young man or young person.
Yeah, so that would indicate that they have spent some time together.
Yeah,
probably.
Not just that they have spent time, but yeah, like Eumaeus cares incredibly deeply for Telemachus. And it kind of proves the simile, right? That like, yes, this is a very sort of intimate father-son kind of relationship that is going on here.
Yeah, I feel like we had a similar conversation towards the beginning of the Odyssey when we were talking about the nurse. I forget her name.
Eurycleia.
Yeah, Eurycleia. I just remember us kind of talking about how Telemachus seems to have been sort of like his mother figure, and now we see like his father figure are not necessarily his actual mother and his actual father, but they are like the housemaid and the swineherd, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, right, Telemachus kind of then responds, and in his response to Eumaeus, he uses the word atta. And so I'm just actually going to read the dictionary definition, again, keyed to Homer, because again, these words obviously change with culture. And so I wanted to get as close as we could to what it might have meant for Homer. Note that this is not pater. Pater is the word that is most commonly translated as father, especially in religious contexts and things like this. But this is atta, and I'm just going to read Cunliffe's entry in the dictionary. A widely spread word for father, doubtless derived from childish speech, used in addressing an elder. But I like this note that, doubtless derived from childish speech, because, linguists theorize that, like, mama is often a child's first syllable or first word because those syllables are really easy to make. And I could see ata being another one that's like a baby sort of mumbling ata that then gets used for father, but seems to have sort of, at least by this time, expanded just more broadly, not to mean specifically my biological father, but my elder person to whom I look up to. Here's the question that I have with this. What do you think Odysseus is thinking as he's watching this? Is he happy for this, or is he jealous of this?
Yeah. Well, the positive from seeing how like tight of a relationship these guys have, the positive I would think from Odysseus' perspective is like, it's a good thing my son hasn't spent all of his time sort of inside the palace, right, where they live. He hasn't been sort of like sheltered or sort of unguided.
Yeah.
Like, at least he's gone out, he's touched grass, right?
Yeah.
He's interacted with people who aren't just like the housemaids. It's a very positive thing that he has a sort of a father figure, even though Odysseus has been gone. Like, I can see that being, I can see Odysseus having the self-awareness to acknowledge that like that is a good thing.
Yeah, I think especially because at this point Odysseus has already spent a couple of days with Eumaeus and has already seen firsthand what a gracious host Eumaeus is. I think it might have been different if he just watched Telemachus approach a stranger and interact like this, but Eumaeus has already proven himself to Odysseus as not only loyal to the family, but also kind and caring and generous and all of these things. And so, yeah, like I would think, I don't have a kid and I haven't been away from, my kid for 20 years or whatever, but like Eumaeus is the exact kind of person that in my absence, I would hope my child would be close with.
Yeah. Like someone who touches grass. Right, himself.
Yeah,
like someone who's
got unk energy.
Well, like someone who like does manual labor, like isn't afraid to get dirty, those kinds of things. Oh, I also think that it's a really great positive because Eumaeus is also like he is like an elder character. He's simultaneously still like their servant, and so it's also a positive to see the way that Telemachus treats the servants of the land.
Yeah. Well, and also that's not the direction I thought you were going, but it's good. I thought you were also going to point out that this relationship also just hints that like Telemachus, at least at some point, has cared about the sort of practical functionings of the household, that like he's gone to check on the guy who takes care of the pigs. And like that, it might have just been an initial start that Telemachus started going for business reasons of like, I got to make sure we got all the pigs and everything. And then that developed into this closer, tighter relationship over the years.
Yeah. Because in contrast to this, the narrative never specifies this, but I would say that it's a pretty sure bet that the suitors have never spoken to Eumaeus.
Right.
Never
except to demand.
Yeah. Never sought out Eumaeus, and never cared at all what the state of the swine are.
Right. Except to send a servant to say, bring us another pig, bring us another pig, bring us another pig. Yeah. Yeah, but they're probably just sending servants to, go fetch them. And
Simultaneously, I'm sure Odysseus feels feelings. There is a moment, once Odysseus has revealed himself, we're not going to go fully there yet. So it's around line 190. Odysseus is like, I am no god, I am your father. Then he kissed his son and cried, tears pouring down his cheeks. He had been holding back till then. So it does imply that he like in this interaction, it doesn't feel like we get a ton of knowledge about his interior. It's just a lot of focusing on Telemachus and Eumaeus. But then it's only later that the narration gives us this hint that he's been holding back tears. So
yeah, I tend to think most of the evidence points towards Odysseus feeling positively about this. And obviously there might be sadness in terms of like, I can't believe I missed this opportunity to bond with my son in this way. But yeah, I don't read any sort of like jealousy or bitterness towards Eumaeus for kind of like usurping him.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Well, especially because, right, Odysseus is hatching his scheme in his mind. And he knows that he and Telemachus are about to do the most father-son bonding activity ever, which is reclaim their home and kill everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that
Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker could never.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, we'll get there when we get there, but it is kind of like Darth Vader went, I am your father, join me on the dark side. And Luke was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then they live happily on the Death Star forever.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, it kind of takes a dark turn, and we'll get there. But to bring it back to the text, I do think that, so then after Telemachus, Eumaeus have this exchange, the first interaction Telemachus and Odysseus in disguise have.
Well, Eumaeus introduces him and is like, hey, Telemachus, this is the stranger who washed up.
Yeah.
I sort of offered him your protection. I hope that's cool with you.
Yeah. But it's actually, like, there's even a more subtle thing that happens first, which is that Odysseus offers Telemachus like a seat. And it kind of implies that there aren't a lot of stools in the hut. And Telemachus refuses. You sit there, stranger. I can find a chair around my hut. I think that's like, it's just a really brief thing, but basically Odysseus is like, would you like my chair? And Telemachus says, no, I will find my own chair. And it's subtle, but I think that is very telling. Mm-hmm. And I find it very touching almost.
In terms of Telemachus's generosity towards strangers again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has no idea who this guy in disguise is. Mm-hmm. And he gets offered a chair and he's like, no, I'll get my own chair.
Yeah.
Which is like taking initiative, not just like, I don't know. It just feels very, very self-aware and sort of polite and cordial.
Yeah. Right. And then when Eumaeus does sort of give the formal instruction and is, like, hey, I kind of offered him the palace's protection. Hope that's okay. Telemachus is immediately, again, like overflowing with generosity in terms of like, yes, we'll take care of you, whatever you need. However, like you probably shouldn't go to the castle right now because it's kind of being overrun. But like you stay here, we'll send you food even.
Yeah. Telemachus is like, great. But also it's the same thing with the outlaw from last chapter where it's like, I don't really have anything to offer this guy, but I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think in many ways, in both cases, from last book with the outlaw and here with this stranger who happens to be his father, that almost makes the generosity more impressive, right? Like Telemachus has kind of every excuse to be like, I'm kind of dealing with some other more important stuff right now. I don't really have time for you guys. And if he had that kind of reaction, it would be, I think, understandable, even forgivable that like he is going through a lot. He doesn't actually have a lot of power or a lot to offer. Mm-hmm. And yet, despite that, he is still willing to sort of go out of his way and try and help these strangers.
Yeah. So I think it's like all of these things sort of compound and combine, I think, so that Odysseus watches and he's like, okay, I don't have a complete dodo bird on my hands.
Yeah.
So, Eumaeus is sent on a little errand. Telemachus tells him to go tell Penelope that he has returned. And then Eumaeus suggests that he also stop by and tell the actual grandpa, Laertes, that Telemachus has returned because he has not been eating or sleeping, I think. All he does is cry, which is very similar to how Odysseus started this book.
Yeah. Finally, Eumaeus is gone, and Odysseus and Telemachus are alone. So Athena has been sort of lurking this whole time, invisible, but present.
Yeah.
And so Athena then is able to bippity-boppity boop Odysseus. Mm-hmm. His disguise melts away, but his appearance is even bolstered.
Yeah.
Even younger looking than he should be. Mm-hmm. And Telemachus, his first reaction is also very interesting upon seeing this old man transformed.
Yes. He does not go, oh, father, at all. It just kind of like...
He goes, oh, brother, where art thou?
He instead just kind of goes, oh, stranger, all of a sudden you look better. And his initial reaction is actually that he is interacting with a god.
Yeah, it's actually very reverent, which again, I think is really fitting because last book we talked about Telemachus's relationship with strangers. He, in like book 1 or 2, was already proven right the idea of like you should be kind to guests because they might be gods in disguise when he helped Mentes, who then turned out to be Athena. And so when he's now seeing all these other strangers, he seems even more keen than the culture demands of them to be kind to strangers. And so I think it makes perfect sense given Telemachus's recent history that like this person in disguise is way more beautiful and handsome looking than you thought, must be a god because the last one was.
It is, from Telemachus' point of view, it is more likely that this guy is a god in disguise than he is his father.
Right. Because again, it's important to remember, not only has Odysseus aged quite a lot from when so Odysseus looks different than he would have when he left, but Telemachus was also an infant. So Telemachus,
Doesn't really know what he
maybe
looked
there
like.
were paintings and or busts of Odysseus in the palace. I don't know how much.
I don't think they did that.
Yeah, portrait art was being done back then.
Yeah.
But for most accounts, Telemachus has no idea what his father looks like.
Yeah. And then Odysseus replies, I am no god. Why would you think such things? I am your father, the same man you mourn. It is because of me these brutal men are hurting you so badly.
Yes, we get the reveal, I am your father.
Yeah.
And I do think it's interesting to note that he starts with the fatherhood, not his name, Odysseus, right? Every other time Odysseus has been asked, who are you? He started with his name. His name has been like really important. But here it's not his name that he leads with. It's his relationship. I'm your father.
The thing I find so interesting about this reveal is Odysseus is like, I am your father. And then he kisses his son and cried. And he starts hugging Telemachus and crying. But then Telemachus is like, I think in my head, he's just kind of standing there straight man style. Like, okay, crazy man. I don't know about that. And he says, no, you are not Odysseus, my father. Some god must have cast a spell to cause me further pain. No mortal man could damage such a thing by his own wits. Could manage such a thing. Becoming old and young again, unless some god appeared and did it with ease. So he's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, you've been transforming. That seems like godlike powers.
Yeah, which honestly I really like because it is the exact same thing that Odysseus would do, I think. It's like the Odyssean quality in him, not immediately accepting, like when you get like the good news, not immediately accepting that it is what you've been told, and instead wondering if you were being tricked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so in doubting his father, he actually proves that he is very much like his father.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not until Odysseus it kind of has like a little bit of a chastised tone. He's like, no, Telemachus, you should not be surprised to see your father. It is me. No other is on his way. And he's like, obviously Athena did it. And we know that Telemachus has had also interactions with Athena and believes that like, yeah, Athena could do this.
Yeah. And that moment, the like little sense of chastisement, but also that is, I think, very loving still. Like, it's not like he's not mad at Telemachus, is also, I think, very reminiscent and biblical of doubting Thomas and the reaction that Christ has to doubting Thomas when Thomas wants to make sure that Jesus is alive by touching his wounds. And Jesus is like, come on.
It just takes like one correction for him to be like, I kind of imagine it's like, psh, obviously I'm your father. And then Telemachus is like, okay. And then he starts crying too.
Right. Which is very similar to Thomas's like just immediate, like, my Lord and my God. He just kind of like immediately is corrected and has this like huge repentance of like, yes. And now we're just like fully in it with each other. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that theme of what does it take for someone to recognize someone else? This is just a micro sort of moment like that. But when Odysseus and Penelope start interacting with each other, it'll be sort of this long, drawn out process of recognition.
Yes.
And yeah, so we can continue to think about that.
Right,
like,
yeah.
What does it take to recognize someone else?
Especially Odysseus in this case. Yeah, like when do other people figure out what's going on? Because Odysseus here is very direct in saying, this is me. But other characters will not get that same level of sort of drama in the reveal, and they'll have to piece it together on their own. Or they'll get the opportunity to piece it together even before Odysseus might want them to. So after they have their hug grand reunion, it's straight down to business. Odysseus's like first practical question, I think, is hilarious. He's just like, all right, Telemachus, give me a list of all the suitors. We've got to figure out if we can kill them all by ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just like so intense. Like, are we going to need to get help, or can we just take them all out? And so Telemachus, he doesn't list everybody's name individually, but he lists sort of like how many people are from which of the surrounding islands. And I didn't do the math, but it's like over 100.
It's 52 plus 24 plus 20 more plus 12 plus a houseboy, a poet, and 2 slaves.
And Odysseus like hears this and he's like, yeah, we can do that. I'm just imagining I'm Telemachus, never having sort of fought formally. I'm sure he's probably trained with a sword and things like this, but like he's never been in combat. And your dad is just like, 100 people? Oh yeah, we can take them. Like, whoa. But again, obviously Odysseus sort of reveals that Athena has been helping him, and Telemachus is like, oh, she's been helping me too. And so they're like, yes, with Athena on our side, we can do this. And at this point, Odysseus kind of has the whole plan kind of already mapped out. He gives Telemachus kind of pretty clear instructions where like when Eumaeus gets back, we're all going to go. I'm going to go in disguise. So you're going to have to pretend that I'm some beggar. And the suitors, they're going to start like bullying me and abusing me. You just got to take it. You can't defend me. Just like let them, get their anger up and get riled up. And I'm going to kind of rile them up too.
Yeah.
You need to sneak around and you need to collect all of their weapons and you need to lock them away, except leave a couple out for us so that when the time is right, we can grab those weapons and go to town. Odysseus says to Telemachus, we need to sort of scout out who in the palace has been loyal to us, both the women servants and the men servants. Yes. And there is an interesting moment.
Yes, I wanted to make sure we got this on record for later. So Odysseus says, this is when he's telling Telemachus that we can't let anyone know my true identity. Not even Penelope, until we have determined the woman's attitude. We also must test the male slaves to see who has respect and fears me in his heart and who does not, and who looks up to you as you deserve. And then Telemachus responds, I agree you should find out about the women, which of them are innocent and which dishonor you. However, I have no desire to traipse around to test the men. We can do that later if Zeus reveals a sign to you. So
Telemachus corrects his father, which is, I think, fairly bold. And Odysseus listens.
They go in with the plan being that they aren't going to, or they're going to determine the sort of innocence of the female slaves in the house and see how that plays out. But it's interesting. So I have no desire to traipse around to test the men.
There may be sexist elements to it, but I also think on a practical level, this is spitballing, but I wonder how much of it is the women servants are going to be in the palace because they have domestic duties. The male servants might be all out and about on the property, like the swineherds and things like that. And I think Telemachus, part of his point is if we're trying to sort of like do this efficiently, it's going to take us way longer to go all around the property, sort of checking in on all of the male servants, whereas all the female servants, by the nature of their work, are kind of already there. That's, I think, the most just kind of like straight up practical explanation is that it'll be easier to check on the females because they're there. The men servants are all sort of all spread out, and so it would take forever.
And by their proximity to the palace and the suitors, by being in it, they are potentially they're more likely to be guilty of something.
Yeah, of sort of siding with the suitors instead of with Penelope.
Yeah. So just putting that there, it might come back.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
And then the book ends with we get a little jibe between Penelope and Antinous.
Yes.
Penelope's like, I don't like you at all.
Because the suitors have returned hoping to have trapped and killed Telemachus, and having been foiled by pesky Athena. They don't know that. They just are like, oh, we failed, darn. So they're kind of all, angry and pouty.
Yeah.
And then Penelope's like, yeah, hate to see you guys again. Like,
yeah. She's like, I don't like any of you. And then Antinous is like, oh, Penelope. I imagine just like the slimiest voice ever. Like
I'm so excited for what Robert Pattinson's going to do with this role.
I know. But Antinous claims that Telemachus is now the man I love the most in all the world. The boy is in no danger, not from us. There is no help for death brought by the gods. So he's kind of saying, like, I wouldn't do anything to harm him.
Yeah.
But if death befalled him by some hand larger than mine, that would not be my problem.
Yeah. But then as soon as Penelope leaves, they're like, yeah, we're trying to kill. He like turns to the other suitors and like, yeah, we're trying to kill this guy, right? And they're like, yep.
Yeah. She leaves and yeah. They're like, but we're going to kill him. Yeah, of course.
Yes. So in the palace, everybody is sort of heading their separate ways. Penelope to continue weeping, the suitors to begin feasting and plotting Telemachus' death, and then Odysseus, Telemachus, and Eumaeus to go to sleep to rest up for the big confrontation. Act 3 is about to begin, which is fitting that it is a third. We are 2/3 of the way through the book, so the last third is now all going to be sort of the execution of this grand plan. Here's an interesting question. I know any sort of, like story arc format is kind of contrived, but what would you say the climax of the Odyssey is? I could make an argument that this actually is, and then everything else that's about to follow is the sort of like
action.
The resolution of Odysseus kind of like coming home to be with his son.
I would rather say that there are 3. It kind of works out almost perfectly that there are 3 chunks of the Odyssey, and each one has its own climax. So with the first chunk, the action is all about like how Odysseus came to be, where he is now with the Phaeacians, and the I would say the climax of that is, basically that when he loses his men. When he loses his men, he's the only one left alive, and then he like drifts to safety to hang out with Calypso. And then the middle chunk that we've just finished, it would be
This
him.
moment,
Yeah, it would be like a combination of him like physically arriving on Ithaca, and here he reunites with Telemachus. And then it's not a spoiler, we know, like I think we know he's going to be successful in the next act. But then the climax of this third chunk being him like fully retaking control of the house, and he and Penelope recognizing one another once again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. It does feel like almost 3 perfectly equal sections to the story.
Yeah, it's nicely paced. This moment feels very satisfactory in a way that it is like, yes, this is the sort of powerful moment that's going to lead us into the big confrontation. Well, if you are excited to get into the confrontation, follow along. Subscribe. We'll keep going week by week. I have the audiobook ready of book 17 of Samuel Butler's translation if you would like to listen along and prepare, or you can read in any other translation you have, or simply tune in and we'll summarize and we'll go from there.
Yep. And if you want to continue the party, we have a mini Patreon podcast called Chonkers. You can check that out. There's a link below.
We just talk about all the other books that we read when we're not reading the Odyssey.
Yes.
Thanks for watching.
And until next time.
Happy reading.